Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you push yourself to the point of exhaustion, your life is still stuck in the exact same place? It is not because you are weak, but because you are living in a timeline that was never meant for you, where old habits, old people, and old fears pull you down every single day. But today, in this very moment, you will step into an entirely different timeline where you no longer run, no longer delay, and no longer ask for permission to live as your true self. You will see what most people spend their whole lives never realizing: that real power does not come from noise, but from the sharp silence of someone who has risen and reclaimed their own life. If you are ready to break free from your old version and step into a new chapter, listen to every word in this video, because it will change the way you see yourself forever. You wake up every morning feeling as if you have stepped into a race you never signed up for, and from the very first second, the pace of life pulls you into an invisible spiral where everything seems urgent, but nothing is truly important. Small tasks piling up, unexpected calls, messages you feel forced to answer, responsibilities scattered everywhere, keeping you constantly busy without actually moving forward. And the worst part is, you think it is your fault. You push yourself to the edge of burnout. Yet, when you look back at the entire week, you cannot say with certainty what has genuinely brought you closer to the life you want. You only know that you are running and cannot stop, but you have no idea where you are running to. Your life does not explode in dramatic ways. It sinks slowly like sand slipping through your fingers, silent but continuous, tiring but steady. Day after day, week after week, you fall into a loop that tightens your mind, drains your energy, and wears down your spirit. On the outside, everything seems fine. You complete tasks, you keep appointments, you meet everyone's expectations, you live as a responsible person. But inside, you know you are maintaining a pace that you cannot sustain much longer. There are moments when you sit in silence and wonder why you are always tired, why you always feel short on time, why every day feels frighteningly the same. You are not lazy, you are not weak, you are not giving up. So why are you this exhausted? The reason is not your willpower or discipline. The reason lies in the things quietly draining you, the things you do not see, the things you do not name, the things you never thought you needed to remove. This is not overload caused by big things. This is overload created by hundreds of invisible dust particles sticking to your life each day. Every yes you do not remember saying, every request you do not dare to refuse, every message you feel obligated to answer immediately, every tiny habit you think is harmless, all of them merging into a heavy, invisible weight pressing on your mind for years. You are not failing. You are being pulled down by things you were never taught to eliminate. And the moment you realize this, you will understand that your life does not need more. It needs less. Less of the people who drain you, less of the demands that do not belong to you, less of the quiet habits that sabotage you, less of the things that make you lose yourself. And from this very starting point, the journey to reclaim your life finally begins. You always feel busy, always moving, always doing something, but when you look back, you do not see results that match the effort you have put in. And this is not because you are incompetent or weak, but because you are being pulled into an underground system you are not aware of, a system created not by a single person or a single event, but by tiny accumulations over many consecutive years, things that seem insignificant yet silently shape your entire life. Each day, you are fed hundreds of signals, making you believe that as long as you try harder, do more, run faster, everything will get better. You are taught to add more, to expand, to take on more responsibilities, to accept more tasks, to become more useful to everyone. But no one teaches you how to remove what is unnecessary. No one shows you that being busy does not equal growth. The truth is, you are not lacking effort. You are lacking space to direct your effort the right way. You are not lacking time. You simply do not know that your time is being stolen little by invisible factors. And you are not lacking discipline. You are surrounded by things that continuously weaken your ability to focus. There are days when you work non-stop yet feel like you accomplished nothing. not because you are not good enough, but because most of your energy is being drained by things that do not bring real value. Things disguised as responsibility, connection, social necessity, or even care from others. Those things create the illusion that you are living with purpose, that you are busy because of important matters. But beneath that surface, they are only underground currents pulling you away from the path you truly want to follow. The uncomfortable truth is that most of your busyness does not come from your own choices, but from your reactions to everything around you. Your phone vibrates, you react. A message arrives, you react. Someone needs you, you react. And your life becomes an endless chain of reactions where you lose the role of the one in control. You have grown so used to it that you confuse reacting with taking action, movement with progress, and busyness with development. You keep thinking that if you just run faster, you will catch up with life. But you do not realize that the path you are running on may be completely wrong simply because the noise is too loud for you to hear your own inner voice. The hidden truth is that you do not live in scarcity. You live in excess. Excess information, excess requests, excess draining relationships, excess meaningless habits you repeat daily, and this excess makes your mind so heavy that you can no longer recognize what truly matters. You are surrounded by things that do not belong to you, but you still feel responsible for all of them, and that is what has exhausted you in silence. Every yes you say without meaning, it is a piece of freedom taken away. Every task you accept just to please someone else is a portion of your future energy cut off. Every time you convince yourself to push just a little more, you are allowing that underground system to continue existing. You do not realize that you are paying for all of it with your focus, your peace, and your future. The cruel part is that you have lived with this feeling for so long that you consider it normal. You are used to being tired, used to being tense, used to living in a mind full of noise, to the point you no longer notice that true peace has been gone from your life for a very long time. But beneath that layer of busyness is another truth. A truth no one tells you, that you do not have to live like this. You do not have to carry everything. You do not have to always be available for everyone. You do not have to be the lifeboat for people who never learn to swim. You do not have to answer every message immediately. You do not have to chase standards that are not yours. You only need to learn how to remove. When you begin to look at life through the eyes of someone seeking truth, you will clearly see that most of the things exhausting you are not difficult. They simply do not belong to you. They have seeped into your life slowly, subtly, persistently, until you mistake them for a part of yourself. But the moment you see them clearly, you will understand that your busyness is not destiny. It is only the result of carrying too many things that have expired. And from that moment, the journey of removal begins to open. Little by little, you will learn to identify the underground currents controlling your life. And once you can name them, you can reclaim control, reclaim peace, reclaim energy, and reclaim the purpose you have lost for far too long. When the truth is revealed, you will see that life does not require you to add more. It only requires you to stop carrying what no longer fits, and that is the first step for you to escape the feeling of being busy but not progressing, so you can truly start living instead of merely struggling to exist. You do not see them, you do not hear them, you cannot name them, but they exist in every moment you wake up, in every minute you work, in every decision you make. And they are the reason you always feel as if you are being pushed into a battle you do not know when it began. These invisible opponents do not appear as obvious enemies. They do not step out in front of you to confront you. Instead, they hide in habits, in thoughts, in relationships, in your environment, and even in the stories you tell about yourself. The most dangerous part is that you have lived with them for so long that you no longer realize you are fighting. You only feel tired, pressured, weighed down as if carrying an invisible stone, and you think it is because of work, age, or responsibility. But the truth is, you are being controlled by forces you have never noticed. One of these silent opponents is the relationships that drain your energy, but you still hold on to out of politeness, loyalty, or guilt. People who call you only when they need something but disappear when you are vulnerable. People who constantly demand attention but never give back any value. People who use their emotions to manipulate you and make you feel responsible for solving their problems. Such people drain your peace little by little. And the frightening thing is, the more you give, the more they demand. You do not know that you have accidentally turned yourself into a container for other people's emotional garbage, and every time they dump their worries or anger onto you, you are the one who has to clean it all up. The second invisible opponent lies in your daily habits. Habits so small you assume they are harmless, but they constantly cut your focus into pieces. You pick up your phone for just a few minutes, but get pulled into a chaotic stream of information. You spend long moments scrolling through things that weigh down your mind without giving you anything valuable. You think you are just relaxing for a moment, but each time you do, you lose small fragments of clarity. Your mind is no longer whole enough for what matters. It becomes fragmented by countless scattered stimuli you cannot control. The third invisible opponent is your environment. Messy rooms, desks piled with papers, devices constantly alerting you, a living space filled with things left undone. Every item out of place creates a tiny noise your brain has to process. Every unfinished document is a reminder of what you have not completed. Every messy corner is a signal that prevents your mind from resting fully. You do not see that noise, but it exists, weaving through your breath and making true relief impossible. The fourth invisible opponent lies within you, in the stories you tell about yourself, the labels you placed on yourself years ago and now believe to be true. You tell yourself you are not good at organizing, so you live in chaos. You tell yourself you lack strength, so you accept poor treatment from others. You tell yourself you cannot change, so you accept a life you do not want. These stories become walls that imprison you, making you believe you have no choice, no ability to rise, no power to change anything. And once you believe that story, you live exactly according to it. The final invisible opponent is the decisions you never make, the tasks you leave undone, the things you know you must handle, but allow to linger endlessly in your mind. Every unfinished task is a thread tying you to stress. Every undecided choice is a stone hanging above your head. Every delayed responsibility is a shadow creeping into your life without you noticing. These things do not create immediate chaos, but they accumulate day after day, week after week, month after month, until one day you wonder why you are so exhausted. The truth is, you have been fighting too many things without knowing they exist. You lose energy not because you are weak, but because you continuously battle invisible opponents no one taught you to recognize, manage, or eliminate. When you begin to look deeply into your life, you will see that these opponents are not strong. They only exist because you have not learned to see them. Once you see clearly, you are no longer fighting in the dark. You know what to cut, what to keep, what to leave, and what to rebuild. This is not a battle against the world, but a battle to reclaim the control that has always belonged to you. And when you fully understand these invisible opponents, you will step into the next chapter of your journey, where you begin to dismantle the entire structure silently guiding your life. And for the first time, you do not just chase life anymore. You begin to lead it your way. You believe that life feels heavy because you are not good enough, not hardworking enough, not persistent enough. But the truth lies somewhere completely different, somewhere most people never see, where every small action in daily life is connected into a silent and persistent underground system. A system you did not create, but are paying for with your peace and your ability to focus. This system does not show up as a clear enemy. It enters your life through details too small for you to notice, yet repeated so many times that they become the foundation of every negative emotion you experience. When you open your eyes in the morning, your mind does not begin in stillness, but with a series of invisible reminders. You remember the messages you have not replied to, the calls you have not made, the requests you have not completed, the commitments you said you would fulfill, and all of that creates a thin layer of dust covering your new day before you even step out of bed. You do not know that you are stepping into a stage that has already been set, where every signal pulls you away from yourself, pulling you toward things that drain more than they nourish. This underground system works by making you believe you must always be available, always responsive, always performing, always proving, always doing a little more to be accepted. But in reality, all of that is only making you lose control over your own life. Every notification that lights up on your phone is not just a sound. It is an invisible hook pulling at your attention, using curiosity or a sense of responsibility to drag you out of the present, making you believe you must check immediately, reply immediately, handle it immediately, and then you return to your work with a mind already fragmented, no longer whole as before. You think it only takes a few seconds to check, but you do not know that each time you do, you must pay many minutes to regain your original focus. The system does not want you to see this truth, because if you see it clearly, you will realize you are not lazy, not unmotivated. You are simply being drained by hundreds of tiny leaks happening continuously throughout the day. You also do not notice how this underground system uses unnecessary relationships to manipulate your emotional energy. Some people appear in your life not to build, but to take. They come with endless stories, repeated problems, complaints without resolution, and each time they leave, you feel a negative kind of lightness, as if they have just extracted a piece of your vitality you cannot name. They make you believe your presence is a responsibility, that you must comfort, must help, must carry, and when you feel tired, you blame yourself for not being kind enough. That is how the system uses guilt as a chain to keep you in connections that give you nothing. Then there are the small habits that seem harmless, but every time you scroll through social media just for a few minutes of entertainment, you do not know that you are opening the door for a flow of information to flood your mind, making you compare yourself, making you feel insufficient, making you believe your life is slower than others. And once that spiral begins, it does not stop even after you close your phone. This underground system is not powerful because it strikes you with one big blow. It is powerful because it divides your energy into thousands of tiny fragments, enough to keep you exhausted, but never understanding why. It makes you believe you need to run faster, when in reality you only need to stop and see what is holding your feet. Another important part of the system lies in your physical environment. A messy room is not just physical clutter, it is mental clutter. Every extra object is a small voice in your head. Every item not cleaned is a reminder that something is unfinished. And all those voices create a continuous noise that prevents you from feeling at ease when you return home. The system is also reinforced by the stories you tell yourself, that you are not good at focusing, that you are too busy to reorganize your life, that you do not have time to rest, that small things do not matter, and these stories keep you trapped in chaos. The unmasking of the underground system happens the moment you see the entire picture, when you realize that what is exhausting you is not one big problem, but hundreds of small ones draining you every day. When you see how the system works, you will understand that freedom does not come from adding more. It comes from removing unnecessary information, meaningless conversations, demands that are not yours, habits that destroy focus, stories that shrink your identity. And once you understand this, you will step into the next chapter of your journey, the chapter where you begin cutting the strings that have tied you down for so long, so that for the first time you feel the space that truly belongs to you. You have had days when you thought you only needed a little rest to feel better, but the more you rested, the more exhausted you felt, the more you avoided, the more anxious you became, and the more you tried to please everyone, the more you felt like you were slowly disappearing. What you do not want to admit is that some people in your life are not here to walk with you, but to drain you, not here to share, but to take, not here to lift you up, but to demand from you. You know exactly who they are the moment their name appears on your phone screen. Your chest tightens, your breath slows, your body braces itself for a battle you know too well but never want to enter. And the dangerous part is, you have lived in that state for so long that you consider it normal. Energy-draining people are not always aggressive or obviously selfish. Sometimes they appear under the disguise of closeness, old memories, loyalty, sympathy, or harmless requests. They use emotions like a soft net wrapped around you, making you believe you must help them, that if you are not there, they will collapse, that you are the only person who can make them feel better. You think it is kindness, but in truth, it is opening the door for the silent currents that drain you every single day. You do not realize that every time you listen to their complaints, every time you force yourself to soothe them, every time you try to help them with something they have no intention of fixing, you are trading your peace for a relationship that gives you nothing but depletion. They turn their problems into your responsibility, their emotions into a burden you must carry, and you think it is compassion. But the truth is you are allowing yourself to be trapped in a role that was never yours. People like that never change because they do not have to change. They always have someone to clean up after them. They always have you to pick up the pieces they created. The most painful part is they rarely listen to you, rarely ask what you need, rarely give back even a fraction of the energy you give them. When they leave behind a heavy emptiness, and when you try to walk away, they pull you back with guilt, with the accusation that you have changed, with the look that makes you feel as if you have betrayed something sacred. In reality, you are not betraying anyone. You are simply beginning to be honest with yourself. Some people make you feel lighter when they leave your life, and that says everything. You do not need to condemn them, argue with them, or blame them. You only need to recognize one simple truth, that your peace is more important than holding on to a relationship that has lost its value. Many people fear cutting someone off because they think they will be lonely, but the loneliness of standing in your own space is always lighter than the loneliness of being surrounded by people who do not understand you. You were not born to be a container for the emotional debris of others. You are not responsible for fixing things they intentionally refuse to fix. You are not a shield for those who refuse to stand on their own. You need to face the truth that every time you stay with these people, you lose a part of yourself. The gentle part, the bright part, the peaceful part, the part you need to build your future. And when that truth becomes clear, you will understand that cutting people off is not cruelty, it is maturity. Some things can only be resolved by quietly walking away. You do not need to explain, justify, or prove you are right. You only need to withdraw your energy slowly. Stop responding immediately. Stop engaging in endless conversations that lead nowhere. Stop rescuing situations that repeat themselves. Stop carrying emotions someone refuses to face. When you walk away in silence, one-sided relationships will fall off like dry leaves that can no longer cling to the branch. What matters is you must understand that your energy is your most valuable asset, and no one has the right to take it from you unless you allow it. When you reclaim the energy that was drained from you, your mind becomes clearer, your body lighter, your life more spacious. You will find more time to do meaningful things, more room to think clearly, more strength to nurture the relationships that deserve you, the people who bring you more peace, more strength, more direction, the people who do not drain you but replenish you. Cutting off is not closing a door, it is opening another one. A door that leads to healthier connections, deeper conversations, companions who lift you up instead of pulling you down. And when you are brave enough to step through that door, you will realize that the only thing you truly lose is exhaustion. You only need to let silence guide you, and a new peace will appear as the people who no longer belong quietly fall away from your life. That is not loss, that is liberation. You do not notice when it begins. You only notice that whenever someone needs you, you respond immediately. Whenever someone asks you for something, you agree instantly. Whenever someone says they need it right now, you push everything of your own aside. You call it kindness, responsibility, an effort to be a good person. But in reality, you are trading your control over your time for a temporary sense of safety. The feeling that you are not disappointing anyone, the feeling that you are meeting the expectations of those around you. But the more you try to please everyone, the more you lose yourself. And this happens so quietly that you do not realize your instinctive yes is turning your life into a schedule designed by others. When you say yes too quickly, you no longer choose, you only react. And reaction is the fastest path to being pulled away from the direction you want to go. You think you are just helping a little, just supporting for a moment, just doing a small task. But those small things stack up into a massive weight, crushing your time. You say yes because you do not want to upset others, do not want to be seen as cold, do not want to appear uncaring. But behind all of that is a truth you hide from yourself, that you fear rejection, you fear being misunderstood, you fear others thinking wrongly of you, you fear losing an image you built in their eyes. And every time you say yes when you do not want to, you are betraying yourself, teaching yourself that your needs are less important than the needs of others. When you say yes to everyone, you are saying no to yourself. Your time stops being a precious resource you protect. It becomes something anyone can access, anyone can consume, anyone can use however they want. You begin to see your own time as cheap, and when you treat your time that way, others treat it the same. They come to you whenever they want, ask you for whatever they need, and you become the easy option for every request that should not belong to you in the first place. You get pulled into long conversations with no purpose, requests that seem urgent but are actually the result of someone else's poor planning. Tasks anyone could do, but they choose you because you always nod. You do not see that you are living in a rhythm controlled by people who refuse to manage their own lives, because every time they fail to manage theirs, you are dragged in as the solution. The instinctive yes is a soft shackle. You do not see it because it does not hurt immediately. It only drains you gradually, taking away pieces of your autonomy. You live each day feeling surrounded by responsibility. But most of it is not real responsibility. It is the result of not knowing how to set boundaries. And when you have no boundaries, your life has no borders. Anyone can walk in, occupy space, and use you as an endless source of energy. To break the instinctive yes, you must stop first. Stop for 1 second before responding. Stop before reacting. Stop before throwing yourself into an unnecessary commitment. That 1 second is the space you need to make a conscious decision. When you stop, you begin to see clearly that not every request is important. Not everyone needs you immediately. Not everything is your responsibility. You begin to ask yourself the most important question most people forget. Does this fit into my time? Every request is an invitation to leave your path, and if you do not filter, you lose direction. You must understand that saying no is not disrespectful, not arrogant, not unkind. Saying no is simply prioritizing what matters more. You must learn to say no with clarity, calmness, and without apology. No means no, not because you do not care, but because you care about your own life. And when you begin saying no, something strange happens. The people who respect you will accept your boundaries. The people who do not will reveal themselves, and you will know who to keep and who to release. Reclaiming ownership of your time is not just changing how you respond, it is changing how you see yourself. You must see your time as valuable. See yourself as someone building a purposeful life. See yourself as the one who decides how your hours are used. Only then can you escape the cycle of unexpected calls, sudden tasks, vague requests, and situations that never belong to you. When you choose consciously, you begin living by your rhythm instead of someone else's, and you begin to feel space you never had before. You begin to see that focus is not a natural gift. It is the result of fiercely protecting your time. And when you own your time, you own your life. From that moment, you no longer chase every request. You begin taking deliberate steps, steady and clear, to build a life worthy of the energy you hold in your hands. You have become so familiar with seeing other people's success and feeling your heart sink as if someone just placed another heavy stone on your shoulders. You try to appear calm. You say you are happy for them. You say their success has nothing to do with you. But deep inside, there is a whisper that makes you feel smaller, that makes you wonder whether you are losing in a race you did not even know you were part of. You do not realize that comparison does not begin at the moment you see someone's achievement. It begins the moment you let your life fall into a passive state where you are unclear about what you want, unclear about what you are building, and unclear about what truly matters to you. When you do not have a clear direction, you are easily pulled toward the polished highlights of others, and you begin to evaluate your life based on what they display. You see them buying homes, you see them succeeding, you see them traveling, you see them showcasing achievements, but you do not see their fear, you do not see their failures, you do not see the nights they cried, you do not see the moments they wanted to give up. You are comparing your internal story with their edited surface, and that is a comparison that will never be fair. Comparison distorts the way you see your life. It makes you believe you must achieve something big to be considered enough, makes you chase standards that do not belong to you, makes you feel lacking no matter how much you have. You begin to set goals not based on what you want, but based on what others have. And when you reach that goal, you see someone else ahead of you, and then you begin another endless race, a race with no true finish line. You do not realize that comparison steals the energy you need to build your own life. It drains your focus, destroys your confidence, and blurs your true values. The most dangerous part is comparison. Makes you forget that every person's life has its own rhythm, its own circumstances, its own timing, its own journey. And no two paths are the same. The person you see today at the top once stood at the bottom. The person shining today once lived in darkness. The person who succeeded early may pay the price later, and the person who succeeds later may be walking a far more sustainable path. When you live in comparison, you lose the ability to honor your own journey. You live feeling not enough, not fast enough, not skilled enough, not timely enough, not doing enough of what is meaningful. But the truth is, you do not need to be fast. You only need to be in the right direction. You do not need a lot. You only need enough. You do not need to win in someone else's race. You only need to win in your own life. To escape the comparison trap, you must stop and look at what you have accidentally forgotten, that the only measurement you need to care about is the version of yourself from yesterday. You do not need to be better than anyone. You only need to be better than yourself by a little. Every step forward matters. Every quiet effort is meaningful. Every time you choose to get back up when tired proves you are heading the right way. When you begin measuring life by internal standards instead of external ones, you open for yourself a freedom that has been taken from you for too long. The freedom to progress at your own pace, the freedom to pursue goals that truly belong to you, the freedom to live a life that is meaningful rather than one that only looks good to others. The next thing you must understand is that what triggers comparison can be controlled. You do not have to open the door for every piece of content to flood your mind. You can unfollow people who make you feel inferior. You can leave environments that make you feel lesser. You can limit the information you consume each day. You are not lacking courage. You are lacking an environment that nourishes peace. When your environment becomes healthier, your mind becomes healthier. You must also recognize that comparison does not disappear by trying to suppress it, but by redirecting it. When you see someone achieve something that stings your heart, use that emotion as a mirror pointing toward what you truly want in life. If you see someone with freedom, maybe you are craving freedom. If you see someone succeeding in a field you care about, maybe that is a signal for you to take action. Comparison is only toxic when you use it to diminish yourself, but when you use it to discover your true desires, it becomes a guiding signal. The most important thing is understanding that your life is not meant to be a copy of anyone else's. You do not need to fit anyone's standard. You do not need to follow anyone's path. You only need to be honest with yourself and committed to the road you choose. When you stop the comparison race, you do not lose. You simply step out of a race that never had a prize for you. And when you step out, you begin to see your real journey, where you can breathe deeper, move slower, focus better, and progress at your own rhythm. A journey that is not loud, but profound, not flashy but steady, not boastful but deeply meaningful. That is the journey you deserve, a journey where peace comes not from beating others, but from no longer needing to compare at all. You have lived far too long inside a story you did not know you were telling. A story repeated in your mind that life is happening to you, that bad things occur because you lack luck, that you are held back by circumstances, by other people, by someone's mistakes, and slowly you begin to believe that all you can do is watch everything unfold without the ability to change it. The victim role slips into your mind softly. It is not loud, not aggressive. It simply whispers that you cannot, that you are not good enough, that you have no other choice, that what you endure is caused by others, that you are powerless in this life. When you believe that story, you begin to live exactly as it says. You sit, waiting for something to change, waiting for someone to fix things, waiting for opportunities, waiting for recognition, waiting for the world to shift. But the truth is nothing happens at all. You do not know that waiting is exactly how the victim role keeps you tied to a place where you cannot move forward. You think you are reflecting, healing, waiting for the right time, but in reality, you are pushing yourself into a silent trap, the trap of helplessness, where the longer you remain still, the heavier everything becomes. You do not realize that retelling old pain, whether in a calm tone or in anger, keeps you anchored in the past. Every time you repeat an old story as proof that you were treated unfairly, you are not just remembering it, you are recreating the emotion of it, reliving the pain, reliving the disappointment, reliving the moments that shattered your trust. And this repetition convinces you that you cannot escape this cycle. What you were never taught is that emotions cannot be healed by repeating old stories. Emotions can only heal by changing the story you are living today. The victim role has a dangerous seduction. It makes you feel comforted, understood, sympathized with, and most importantly, it removes the pressure of responsibility. If everything is someone else's fault, you do not have to change. If circumstances dictate your life, you do not have to take action. If you are powerless, responsibility will not weigh on you. But the comfort of the victim role is a toxic comfort because it trades your immediate peace for your future. It makes you feel safe in familiar suffering while taking away your chance to step into the zone of control where you can change what truly belongs to you. You must see the truth that no one can step into your life and clean up the chaos you have allowed for too long. No one can think for you, act for you, decide for you, stand up for you. No one can live for you. The victim role makes you focus on what you cannot control, but true power begins the moment you look at what you can control. You cannot change what happened, but you can change how you respond. You cannot make others different, but you can decide who gets access to your life. You cannot control the past, but you can control the direction of the present. And when you shift your attention toward what you truly hold in your hands, you feel a subtle yet profound shift. As if you have just taken back the steering wheel of a vehicle you thought you lost long ago. To step out of the victim role, you must end the questions that weaken you, like, why did this happen to me? Why did they treat me like that? Why is life so hard for me? Those questions have no useful answers. They only drag you back into the loop of negative emotion. The question you need is the strongest question anyone wanting to change their life must learn. What do I do next? That question pulls you out of the past, brings you back to the present, and places you in the position of the driver instead of a powerless observer. When you ask, what do I do next? You acknowledge that you have choice, you have the ability to act, you have the power to create difference, even the smallest one. You do not need to fix everything in a day. You only need to do the smallest thing you can do today. And that small action breaks the cycle of helplessness, the victim role planted in you. You must see that power is not something you wait for someone to hand you. Power is something you reclaim through small daily choices. You reclaim power when you stop retelling stories that shrink you. You reclaim power when you stop blaming and start acting. You reclaim power when you dare to say, I am responsible for my future, not because you caused everything, but because you are the only one who can walk away from it. When you step out of the victim role, you will see the world does not change instantly, but you change. And when you change, the world around you begins to shift. You feel lighter, clearer, more focused. The problems that once paralyzed you become challenges you can solve step by step. The people who once exploited you will feel powerless. The relationships that once weighed you down will fall away. You will feel yourself standing taller, breathing deeper, seeing the road ahead more clearly. And from that moment, you no longer let life happen to you. You begin to step into the zone of control where you choose how to live instead of merely reacting. That is the life you are moving toward, the life where you are no longer dragged by the current around you but create the current for yourself. You cannot build a clear life when the space around you is always foggy. You cannot maintain peace when every corner of your home is a reminder of what you have not done, not handled, not organized. And you cannot sustain focus when your living environment is like a maze of small signals that constantly pull your mind apart. What most people never realize is that the environment does not just surround you, it shapes you, it guides your thoughts, it adjusts your emotions, and it determines how far you can go. You may think clutter is a small matter, but every object out of place creates an invisible call in your mind. Every pile of unfinished papers is a hanging piece of responsibility. Every messy drawer is a reminder of your procrastination. And every neglected corner of your home is a pocket of trapped energy that cannot flow. You cannot see this mental chaos with your eyes, but it slips into every thought and slows down every step you take. When you sit down to work in a messy space, your brain must process dozens of signals within seconds. It must filter out irrelevant things, resist the distractions of physical clutter, and try to create focus in an environment that does not allow it. This exhausts you before you even begin. You wonder why you lose focus easily, why it is hard to start something, why you often feel suffocated. But you do not know that everything begins with what you have allowed into your space without control. If you want a light mind, your space must be light first. Not only your physical environment, but your digital environment is also a hidden battleground. Your phone is a doorway to thousands of information sources. Each notification is a pull. Each message is a demand. Each app is a tiny shard that contributes to the fragmentation of your inner stillness. Every time you check your phone for a few seconds, you do not just lose a few seconds, you lose the entire focus cycle you need to do deep work. This does not happen once, but dozens of times a day. And you think you lack discipline, when the truth is, you are living in a battlefield designed to steal your attention piece by piece. You are pulled toward things that do not give you value yet make you feel busy. You feel like you must check, must reply, must monitor, must update, and from that your focus is torn into scattered fragments. Your mental environment is just as important. Inside your mind are countless unfinished loops, decisions you have not made, conversations you have not completed, goals you have not written down, all forming a thin layer of fog that keeps your mind tired at all times. Every unfinished task is a thread tied to stress. Every delay is a small stone on your chest. Every unclear goal is a dark patch in your mind where you do not know which direction to take. When the physical, digital, and mental layers of noise coexist, you lose your ability to focus. You lose the ability to see far. You lose the ability to decide firmly. You live in a constant reactive state instead of actively leading your life. To cleanse your environment, start with what you see every day. Look at your desk and ask how many things sitting there do not serve your goal. Look at your room and ask how many objects simply occupy space without bringing value. Every time you remove something old, you are not just clearing an object, you are clearing a piece of trapped energy. Every time you organize a drawer, you are not just arranging space, you are rearranging your priorities. Every object that leaves is a signal to your mind that you are creating room for what is new. For your digital environment, you must clean your phone and computer like cleaning a room. Delete unnecessary apps. Turn off irrelevant notifications. Limit your time interacting with platforms that drain your energy. It is not that you lack discipline. You simply need fewer doors leading to distraction. Every notification turned off is a moment of attention regained. Every app deleted is a pull you escape from the information spiral. Every moment of digital silence is a gift to your nervous system. For your mental environment, clear the things floating in your mind. Write down unfinished tasks, undecided choices, unfulfilled promises. When these things leave your mind and land on paper, they no longer scatter inside your brain like invisible hooks. You will feel your mind lighten just through that simple action. Cleansing your environment is not a one-time chore. It is a ritual of self-respect. Every time you clean, you affirm that you deserve a space that nourishes you instead of suffocates you. When your environment becomes clear, your mind becomes clear. You will begin to feel inner stillness, something you thought you had lost long ago. And from that stillness, you will see your path more clearly than ever. That is the true power of a clean environment. It does not just free the space around you, it frees the person within you. You think you are simply waiting for the right moment, waiting for a free day, waiting for a good mood, waiting for when everything feels stable. But in reality, you are falling into one of life's most sophisticated traps, the trap called procrastination. Procrastination does not appear as a clear decision. It does not tell you that you will not do something. It only tells you that you will do it later, but later becomes a bit more time. A bit more time becomes tonight. Tonight becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. And eventually, you realize you have lost months or even years because of appointments with yourself that you never showed up for. Procrastination makes you believe you still have time, that a small delay is harmless, that you are still preparing, still thinking, still researching, but those preparations are merely a way for you to stay safe in the familiarity of your comfort zone. You do not realize that behind every time you say, "I will do it tomorrow," is a sigh from the powerful part of you, the part that wants to rise, wants to act, wants to live in alignment with your potential. That part is abandoned every time you procrastinate. What makes procrastination dangerous is that it does not make you feel wrong immediately. It is not like an obvious failure. It does not crush you today. Instead, it gives you temporary relief, a feeling that you have escaped pressure. You feel comfortable when you procrastinate, but you do not see that this comfort is stealing your future piece by piece. You lose confidence every time you procrastinate, because every time you do not do what you promised yourself, you tell your mind that you are unreliable, that you lack consistency, that you lack the ability to finish. You create an image of a powerless person inside your own mind. And from that image, you live accordingly. Procrastination not only steals time, it steals the trust you have in yourself. You do not fail to act because you are lazy. You fail to act because you are afraid. Afraid of failure, afraid of not being good enough, afraid the result will disappoint you, afraid you will start and then quit. Procrastination is the beautiful coat that fear puts on so it looks like a reasonable choice. You do not realize that you procrastinate not because you are not ready, but because you are avoiding the discomfort of beginning. That discomfort is the thin wall between who you are now and who you want to become. And the key to breaking that wall is not big motivation. It is the smallest action you can do right now. Destroying procrastination does not happen by forcing yourself to finish everything. It happens by starting with the smallest task. One small thing you do right now carries more power than a perfect plan you never start. Open a blank document instead of trying to finish a whole chapter. Clean one corner of your desk instead of cleaning the whole room. Run for 1 minute instead of trying to run 5 kilometers. The beginning is what creates momentum. Momentum is what successful people rely on to keep going far, not motivation. Because motivation comes and goes like wind, while momentum is built from consistent action, small but steady. When you create momentum, you do not have to force yourself to act. You simply continue from the inertia you already have. What you need is to break the ice, to take the first action that shatters the paralysis created by procrastination. The first action is never pretty, never perfect, never complete, but it is the matchstick that lights the entire fuel tank inside you. When you act, even when you are not ready, you send an important message to your mind that you are a doer, not just a thinker. You are no longer the person sitting and contemplating life. you become the person building your life. You must also understand that procrastination and perfectionism are siblings. Every time you say you are not ready because it is not perfect, you feed procrastination. Every time you demand an optimal plan, you create an excuse not to act. Every time you wait for inspiration, you place your future in the hands of emotions that shift hourly. You must accept that no first action is perfect, but all achievements begin with that imperfect first action. If you do not allow yourself to do things imperfectly, you do not allow yourself to grow. You must learn to make decisions within clear time frames. If you are indecisive, set a specific hour to decide, instead of letting it linger in your mind like a shadow draining you. A decisive choice is the fastest way to close a mental loop. You must build the habit of finishing small tasks before they become large shadows weighing heavily on your mind. When you let small tasks accumulate, you lose not only time but spirit. Every small task completed is a brick rebuilding your trust in yourself. The most important truth to break procrastination is that action must come before emotion. You do not need to feel like doing it. You just need to do it. And when you do it, the feeling will follow. Motivation does not create action. Action creates motivation. When you start moving, your mind adjusts to the new state, and you will see that what once scared you was only a large shadow projected onto the wall by your imagination. When you destroy procrastination, you regain the most precious part of life, the ability to self-direct. Every task you complete on time, every decision you make firmly, every action you no longer delay becomes a brick, paving the path you abandoned for too long. You are no longer someone watching life move past you. You become someone walking, step by step, steady and strong, toward the future you truly deserve. It is that sense of agency that brings you to where you want to belong, and it begins with the smallest action you are willing to take right now. You do not truly live your own life until you look directly at the story you are telling about yourself every day. No one teaches you that identity is not something fixed, not a label placed on you since childhood, not the comments that once hurt you, not the roles you were forced to carry because of circumstances, but a story being updated every day through the actions you choose. But unfortunately, most people live as if their identity were a life sentence. You attach yourself to statements like, "I am not good at this. I am not persistent enough. I cannot change. I am not the kind of person who can do that." You repeat those sentences long enough for them to become true to you, not because they are true, but because you have lived as if they were. Your identity is not shaped by what you think of yourself, but by what you repeat every day. If you repeat the actions of someone lacking confidence, you become someone lacking confidence. If you repeat the actions of someone who procrastinates, you become a procrastinator. If you repeat the actions of someone who does not dare speak their mind, you become someone who stays silent. But what you have never been reminded of is that you can also repeat the actions of someone strong, decisive, clear, courageous, awake. And by repeating those actions, you begin to become the person you once believed you could never be. Reconstructing identity is not imagining who you will be in the future. It is acting each day as if you are already living in that future. When you want to become stronger, you act like a strong person, even if you do not feel that way yet. When you want to become more confident, you decide like a confident person, even when your heart is shaking. When you want to become more disciplined, you take the small steps of discipline, even when your body resists. Identity cannot change through wishing, it changes through evidence. Every small action you complete is a new piece of evidence, a brick placed into the foundation of the person you are building. You cannot become a new person if you keep reinforcing the old image. You must let old stories wither by no longer feeding them with old actions. And to do that, you must begin where true change always begins, with the way you name yourself. Many people trap themselves with labels that no longer fit, labels that may have once made sense at a point in the past, but no longer serve the person you are trying to build. You may once have been weak, but you are no longer weak. You may once have been afraid, but you no longer live by that fear. You may once have been hurt, but you are no longer defined by that hurt. When you hold on to those labels, you turn yourself into a reduced version of who you are. A version that never has the chance to grow because it is imprisoned by old definitions. Reconstructing identity is the process of removing those labels one by one. You remove self-limiting statements. You remove beliefs that keep you from moving forward. You remove memories that make you doubt yourself. You do not erase them. You simply stop using them to define who you are. You let them return to where they belong, a part of the past, not a part of the future. And when you are no longer held back by old stories, you begin rewriting yourself. You rewrite by choosing the actions your better self would take. The person you are becoming is not a fantasy, but a very real version of you, one you can reach simply by taking one more small action each day. If you want to become more responsible, you begin by keeping one small promise to yourself every day. If you want to become more consistent, you begin finishing tasks even when you do not feel like it. If you want to become more confident, you begin speaking your opinions even if your voice shakes. Each time you do something aligned with the person you want to become, you rewrite your identity. You make your mind believe you are truly that person. Identity does not come before action. Action comes before identity. When you begin living according to the standards of your best self, people around you will also see the change. They will sense your calmness in situations that once overwhelmed you. They will notice your clarity in decisions you once hesitated on. They will see the way you speak differently, stand differently, walk differently. But the most important thing is that you will feel different, as if you have finally stepped into your true self. After years of living inside a shell created by circumstances and fear, rewriting identity also means accepting that what once defined you is no longer true. You learn to walk away from people who only see you through old eyes, people who do not want you to change because your growth forces them to face their own stagnation. You learn to respect your old self for helping you survive, but you no longer let it lead. You learn to give yourself permission to step into what is new without waiting for approval. And most importantly, you learn to see yourself as someone constantly evolving, not a fixed product. When you reconstruct your identity, you do not just change how you see yourself, you change the way you enter life. You walk with new clarity. You choose with new strength. You act with new confidence, and you see your future with a brightness you never felt before. That is not magic. It is the result of daring to rewrite the story of yourself. And from the moment you take back the pen of your life, you will never return to the old role again. You can change your life in a single, decisive moment. But to keep that new life, you must build a system strong enough to support you every day. True change does not happen in explosive moments of inspiration. It happens in the quiet moments when you are alone facing the choice between doing the old thing or doing the new thing. It is those repeated choices that create habits, and habits are the foundation of every powerful version of yourself that you want to become. You have removed the people who drained you. You have taken back your time. You have stepped out of the comparison race. You have left the victim role. You have cleared your environment, and you have destroyed procrastination. But if you do not build a system to maintain those achievements, life can easily pull you back to your old state, because the old state is where you lived for a long time, where you knew how to survive, where you were familiar, even though it was not where you wanted to stay. The system is the bridge that connects you from the initial changes to the stable version of your new self. And to strengthen this system, you must understand that your life is driven by structure, not emotion. Emotion changes every hour, but structure keeps you going even when you are not excited, not comfortable, not motivated. The first thing you must strengthen is your schedule. A clear schedule is not meant to confine you, but to free you from chaos. When you know exactly what needs to be done at each moment, your mind becomes lighter, your focus sharper, and the process of action smoother. You need a framework for your day, a frame you can adjust but not break. You need fixed hours for your most important work, fixed hours for self-care, fixed hours for rest, and fixed hours to disconnect from draining streams of information. When you dedicate the best hours of your day to your most important work, you send a powerful message to your brain that this is the priority. And when you repeat that, your brain adapts. The second thing you must strengthen is your reminder system. Not reminders as long, overwhelming lists, but subtle touch points that keep you aligned. A note stuck on your desk corner, a paper on your bathroom mirror, a small message in your phone. These small signals remind you of the identity you are building. Remind you that you have left the old self and are stepping into the better one. These small reminders pull you back on track, even when your mind wanders. The third part of your system is the habit of self-review, not to judge, but to reflect, to adjust, to become leaner and more effective. Each night, just a few minutes to ask yourself 3 simple questions. Did I act according to the person I want to become today? What can I do better? And what will I do differently tomorrow? These small questions make you the driver, not someone drifting through life. The fourth thing you must strengthen is the ability to say no with consistency. As your new life becomes clearer, many people will try to pull you back to the old zone, the zone where you once reluctantly pleased others, the zone where you once feared upsetting them. But you must understand that your time is no longer a shared asset. It is your personal asset. Each time you say no, you protect your space. And each time you protect that space, you strengthen the new system of your life. The fifth thing you must build is stability in the smallest actions. You do not need big steps every day. You only need consistent steps. One small task completed each day carries more power than a big task delayed for months. When you get one small thing right, you get the next right, and so on, creating a chain of continuous action. That is how momentum is built, not through bursts, but through consistency. The sixth thing your system must have is boundaries against sources of noise. These boundaries are not to control the world, but to protect the mind. You limit phone time, limit who can access your emotional energy, limit the amount of information you consume, and limit the number of decisions you must make in a day. Each boundary is a shield that helps you keep your focus. And finally, your new system must include self-care, not the indulgent kind, but the nourishing kind. You need enough sleep, you need foods that make your body strong, you need movement, you need quiet time, and you need space for your mind to recover. When you treat yourself as a valuable asset, you will have the energy to sustain every habit you build. Sustainable change does not come from impulsive moments. It comes from a solid system. When your system is strong enough, you do not need to force yourself to become the new person. You naturally become that person. You no longer have to push yourself to do the right thing. The right thing becomes your instinct. You no longer worry about losing motivation, because motivation is no longer what you rely on. Instead, you rely on structure, on habits, on repeated actions. When your system is strengthened, your life becomes smoother, lighter, more stable. You will feel as if the door to your future opens wider every day. You will no longer worry about whether you can maintain this life because you have built a solid foundation. And from that foundation, everything you want can grow like a living entity, strong, steady, and worthy. You have spent many years of your life trying to maintain relationships that no longer fit. You kept people around just because of shared history. You let familiarity become the reason to continue, and you used your kindness to soothe connections that drained you. But now that you have come this far, after cutting off toxic energy, reclaiming your time, leaving the victim role, clearing your environment, and rebuilding your identity, you will realize something important. True freedom does not come from leaving someone, but from choosing the right people to continue the journey with you. Not everyone deserves to walk with you into the next chapter of your life. Some people only fit an older version of you, a version that was weaker, more tolerant, and easier to take advantage of. When you begin to grow, those people will no longer see you as easy to control as before. and that very thing exposes the true nature of the relationship. If a relationship only exists when you always bend, always sacrifice, always try to be the good person, then it is not a relationship. It is emotional dependency. And when you stop playing that role, the relationship falls away like a leaf that has reached the day it must leave the branch. You must learn to look at relationships through a new standard, a higher one, a standard aligned with the version of yourself you are becoming. You do not evaluate a relationship by how long you have known someone, but by the quality of energy it brings into your life. The people worthy of staying are the ones who make you feel lighter after talking to them, not heavier. The ones who make you feel seen, understood, and respected, not used. The ones who make you want to become a better version of yourself, not those who make you shrink so they can feel comfortable. When you begin choosing relationships through the standard of peace rather than familiarity, you reshape your entire life. Building a new circle is not about finding many people, but finding the right people. Quantity does not matter, quality does. One right person can give you strength that 10 wrong people never could. The right person does not envy your growth, they celebrate and encourage it. The right person does not take advantage of your kindness, they appreciate it. The right person does not react with hurt when you set boundaries. They understand because they also live with healthy boundaries. The right person does not turn their problems into your burden. They take responsibility for their part and come to you only to exchange, not to dump. The new circle is not formed in loud gatherings, but in deep and honest conversations. You need people who dare tell you the truth, who dare advise you when you are wrong, who dare keep you aligned when you drift, who dare share their dreams without fear of judgment, and who dare listen to your dreams without turning them into competition. Deep relationships are always built on honesty and trust, not on hiding and pretending. You will realize that when your identity changes, your circle naturally changes too, not because you are cold, but because low energy levels cannot survive long next to the clarity and strength you are building. Those who came to you only to complain will feel uncomfortable when you become more decisive. Those who were used to controlling you will leave when you learn to say no. Those who like the softer version of you will not know how to approach the more grounded and determined version, and that is good. You are not here to keep everyone. You are here to build a life aligned with who you are becoming. You must accept that as you grow, some people will not keep up, and their departure is not a loss, but a natural adjustment of the universe, clearing space for those who fit better. As you build a new circle, you will see life open in ways you never imagined. You will meet people with whom you feel you do not need a mask. You will meet people who inspire without diminishing others. You will meet people who understand the value of silence, people who speak little but every word carries weight. You will also meet people walking a similar journey, those healing, growing, and building better versions of themselves. And together, you form a circle that lifts each other rather than drags each other down. The final important part of reshaping relationships is that you must become the person worthy of the circle you want. You want to meet honest people, you must live honestly. You want to meet clear people, you must live clearly. You want to meet disciplined people, you must build discipline within yourself. You want to meet people who value energy, you must value and protect your own. The circle you attract always reflects the person you are. When you change, the right people will find you, just as parallel lines eventually meet when extended far enough. Building a new circle is not about having more people, but about becoming the person who can stand firm in your own journey. You do not need a crowd, you need the right ones. And when the right people appear, they will not only walk with you for a stretch of the path, they will help you see doors you once believed could never open. When you have gone through the long journey of removing noise, clearing your environment, cutting off people who drained your energy, destroying procrastination, rebuilding your identity, and strengthening your new system, you step into a different territory of life, a place you never knew you could reach. This is no longer the journey of escaping the old, but the journey of living with the new, living as an upgraded version. But to step into that new life completely, you must understand that the new version of you is not just stronger, not just clearer, but also has higher standards. The new standards are the first thing you feel in this transformation. You begin to realize that peace is not something you seek, it is something you protect. You no longer let others affect your mood freely. You no longer allow anyone to break the boundaries you set. You no longer lower your standards to maintain relationships that do not deserve you. Before, you easily sacrificed yourself to keep harmony, to keep others comfortable, to maintain your image as a good person. But the new version of you understands that comfort cannot be exchanged for inner damage. When the new standards appear, you begin saying no faster, saying yes more selectively. You no longer feel guilty for protecting your time. You no longer feel awkward distancing yourself from things that do not align with you. What changes you most deeply is clarity. You know what matters and what does not. You know what belongs to you and what is only an expectation from others. You no longer feel vague in your choices, no longer hesitate in action, no longer let old memories pull you down. Clarity helps you go straight into what needs to be done without wasting energy on circular thoughts. When you live with higher standards, you begin to see the world with different eyes. You are no longer drawn into meaningless conversations, noisy news, empty drama, or half-hearted relationships. You walk into every interaction with awareness, and you walk out of it whole. You no longer feel pulled by life, you walk with intention. Another shift you feel clearly is the inner stillness. Before, your mind was always loud, full of scattered thoughts, nameless worries, unnecessary questions. But now, everything becomes clearer. Your stillness is not something someone gave you. It is the result of taking back your life piece by piece. You begin enjoying simple moments you once overlooked, like drinking water in silence, like walking slowly in the morning, like feeling your steady breath. When you are still inside, you are strong on the outside. The new version of you no longer needs to prove anything to anyone. You do not need to prove you are good. You do not need to prove you are right. You do not need to prove you are worthy. You know your value, and others sense it through the way you live. That calmness creates a new kind of power in you. This power does not come from being loud, but from being steady. It does not come from being above others, but from not needing to chase anyone. It does not come from external control, but from internal mastery. When your standards rise, you no longer accept what once satisfied you. A shallow apology is no longer enough. A vague promise is no longer enough. A half-hearted effort is no longer enough. You want things around you to have more soul, more truth, more kindness, more clarity. You no longer hesitate to leave relationships that cannot keep up with your growth. You no longer feel the need to hold on to opportunities that do not align with you. You understand that anything that takes away your peace is too expensive to keep. The new version of you also knows how to choose battles. You no longer react to everything that irritates you. You no longer need to explain every thought you have. You no longer need to win every argument. Your silence becomes an intentional choice, a confidence that needs no display. When you live with higher standards, you begin attracting people with the same frequency. People of integrity, of kindness, of ambition, of responsibility. People who respect your time and energy. These are people who do not tire you when you are around them, but make your life feel more open. The final transformation you feel most clearly is self-leadership. You no longer wait for life to get lighter before stepping up. You step up so life becomes lighter. You no longer wait for inspiration to act. You act so inspiration comes. You are no longer shaken by fleeting emotions. You place emotions where they belong and let discipline lead the way. Living as the upgraded version is not living perfectly. It is living with standards. Not standards to show off, but standards to build upon. You know what you do not accept. You know what you pursue. You know what you must remove. You know what you must protect. When you live this way, life is no longer a place you try to survive. but a place you finally begin building. And at this stage, you are preparing for the final step of the journey, the step where you not only change your outer life, but change the timeline of your existence. You have walked a long journey to reach this place, a place where you are no longer held back by old people, old habits, old fears, a place where you no longer live in the victim role but stand tall in your own zone of control. A place where you are no longer pulled by the chaos of your environment, but know how to purify it. A place where you no longer let procrastination define you, but have built momentum for action. A place where your identity is no longer shaped by the past, but rewritten through deliberate choices. A place where every piece of your life is placed firmly within the system you built. A place where your circle is made of people who truly deserve to be there. A place where you live with higher standards and walk with the calmness of someone who knows their own worth. And then you reach this moment, the moment you realize that true power does not lie in noise, does not lie in proving yourself, does not lie in having to explain how much you have changed, but lies in silence. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is the space where your power is compressed, where your clarity becomes sharper, where every choice you make shines in serenity. When you stand inside that silence, you feel a new current unfolding before you, a different timeline, where you no longer live by reaction but by intention, where the future no longer frightens you but becomes an invitation, where you no longer fight to survive but truly build, create, and lead. Silent power is the ability to stand firm without arguing, to move forward without noise, to choose without asking for permission, to leave without justification, and to appear with a presence strong enough for life to adjust around you. When you hold that power, you step into the new timeline without looking back. The timeline of someone who knows they deserve a better life, a life not given, but created through daily choices. The moment you cross into this timeline comes with no fireworks, no drums, only the deep stillness of someone who has found themselves again. And in that stillness, you realize something simple but transformative, that the new life does not begin when the world changes, it begins when you change. From here, you do not just live differently, you live rightly, you live fully, and you live as if every breath carries weight. This is your destiny shift, the shift that brings you into the new chapter, where you no longer ask whether you can, but only ask how far you will go. You have walked with me through a long journey where you look at your life from a completely different angle, where you recognize the silent things that drain you, where you clearly see the invisible opponents controlling every moment, where you learn to cut off the old self, reclaim your time, escape comparison, leave the victim role, cleanse your environment, destroy procrastination, rewrite your identity, and live as an upgraded version of yourself. All of that is not for you to become someone else, but for you to return to the strongest version already within you. If you can take only one thing from this video, let it be the truth that you can step into a new timeline at any moment, simply by the decisive choices you make each day. Thank you for staying until the very end. It shows that you are truly serious about your life. If this content resonates with you, please leave a like, share this video with those who need to hear it, and do not forget to subscribe so you will not miss the next stories. See you on the next journey, where you are the one writing the next chapter of your own life.